Good morning, everybody. It is a Tuesday morning, and I'm back again, and you'll be getting this on Wednesday because Wednesday is when I upload. So, welcome to my new subscribers. Thank you very much, and thanks for stopping by. Today, I'm going to talk about the love-hate relationship that we have with knitting, because it is a love-hate thing. Maybe hate's a really strong word, but sometimes we get very frustrated with it. Discouraged, and I had some of that recently, and I'm going to share what I did to combat that. And the other thing I want to talk about is that, you know what, there's a lot of psychology in knitting that can be applied to everyday living. So I talk about how to overcome doubts, not fears, but doubts, and how to encourage yourself, and that as you are knitting and gaining skills, you are gaining skill on how to manage life. So think about that. Watch the video. Take a look at what's been going on with my projects. And you know what? Share your doubts about knitting, or share your frustrations or discouragement, and tell me what you do to overcome that. Okay? So watch on. I'm still working on my Ella Rae pattern, the Elsa sleeveless top. As I struggled with this pattern, I had decided to block each section as I was going along, and that gave me an idea of just how far it's going to stretch. And then I pieced it together, but unfortunately, not all the pieces blocked in the same manner. So I've got this short and longer sections, and it's very annoying. At some point, I'm supposed to pick up all the stitches on the bottom and knit some ribbing around the bottom and the sleeves and so forth, but it's so wavy on the bottom that it's just not going to be even, and that was bugging me. So I actually did a knit to purl to ribbing, and then I sewed it onto the bottom. So that's where I'm at with that right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with the sleeves and the neckline. I still have to do those. But the whole thing so far has been quite discouraging for me. Knitting with this wool, it was like knitting with steel. It was very stiff. And that's one of the reasons I decided to block it. So what I did is I soaked it in some Downy to soften up the yarn, and that helped. I really don't know if I'm going to end up wearing this or not. It might be my 2-hour top, in that I wear it for a couple hours in the evening and then put it away. The second project I've been working on is a tank top, which I thought, like, the tutorial is so precise and clear. I really loved the design and the idea and how to put it together. I was following along. Unfortunately, I decided to make it bigger, so that didn't work, and I had to pull it out. But the pattern itself is done by a girl. She signs on as Knit Crow Addict, and I'll mention that again later in this video. But the way you put it together is you're knitting the back, and you go up and knit the caplets, or the sleeve parts, the parts that go over your shoulder, and then you knit the front bodice, and then you join it in the round, and then you knit down. So it's a very basic concept, and I really like the idea. So I'm still working on that one, even though I've ripped it out twice now. What you see in these pictures is my no-fail shawl, which I decided to pull apart because, I mean, it was complete and I was wearing it, but there was areas where the tension wasn't right, or there was a hole in it, or I just wasn't happy. I wanted it to be perfect, so I decided I'm ripping it out. And this is what happens when you can't find the beginning line to rip out. The recreation knit looks a little uneven, but this is in its unblocked form, and when it's blocked, it's going to look a lot better. Knitting can be a love-hate activity. Sometimes I'm frustrated when the project doesn't seem to be working, and then I have to frog it, redo the piece I'm working on. To combat the frustration piece I'm working on, all I need to do is look at garments I've already completed, like my Christmas shawl. When I get frustrated as an artist, I can look around at the many things I've made: quilts, pillows, decoupage, wood signs, eyeglass holders, ladders, planter boxes, wall decorations, painted tin, painted vases, furniture that I've restored, like my bookcases, a dresser, a chair. Over the years since I was a kid, I've sewn many items of clothing for myself, and then my girls as they grew up, and others. I used to have a custom sewing business called Good Stuff, and I had a lot of customers. People bringing me items of clothing and saying, "Can you make this dress into a blouse?" Or "Can you create a scarf out of this?" Or "Can you enlarge these pants or take them in?" How could I ever believe that doubt, the doubt that whispers, "You can't knit, you're not good at anything"? We have these doubts. They appear sometimes often. The remedy against the perceived doubt, or the personal doubt, is to remind ourselves of how far we've already come. Regarding knitting, remind yourself that you're in the process of learning. You're actively practicing the art of learning how to knit, gaining the skill. When frustrated or discouraged, you could go to something that encourages you, whether that's a person or a thing or an item. Think of who or what tends to encourage you. Looking at previous work tends to encourage me. Sometimes it's an event or a person that helps. For example, I was frustrated with 2 projects I was working on, and I went to bed quite discouraged. As nature would have it, we berate ourselves and give way to doubts and negative thinking. That night, I went to bed thinking, "That's it, I'm giving up. I'm quitting knitting. I'm never going to do it again. I'll never indulge in any other crafts. I'm not making any soap or bath bombs, nothing. I'm just going to work on my part-time work and forget about the rest." That's the way our thinking goes at times. It's usually short-lived. We eventually get back to being ourselves. We focus on a goal, a plan. We indulge in things that we like. In my frustration and discouragement that night, I opened up my iPad and typed in, "Why does knitting have to be so difficult?" I happened on a YouTube episode from Knit with Hannah, and the title was, "What to Do When Knitting is Hard." I'm going to paraphrase the main message I got from Hannah's video. "Honey, if you want to get skilled at knitting, you've got to keep practicing." I realized the only way to get good at knitting is to keep moving forward. So, I said, okay, I'll just continue on as I am. Well, after watching Hannah's video, the next day I pulled apart my no-fail shawl. If you've watched a previous video, I did put up a short on that. You just yarn forward, knit 2 together, yarn forward, knit 2 together. And it was fine, except that I had put down the project for about a month or so. When I picked it back up, I forgot how I got the particular lacy effect and technique that I was working on. And I ended up doing something else. So half the shawl was one stitch pattern, and the other half was completely different. And then to try to save it, I crocheted a border around it. Now, looking at it and showing it to my girlfriend, she said, "It looks great. It looks like it was meant to be that way." And I admit the design was kind of interesting, but it was still bugging me that every time I put it on, there was 2 holes that I could see, 2 places where the stitch had been completely relaxed. The tension just was not consistent with the rest of the project. And because I was seeing it, it was right in the front. It bugged me. So I took it apart. And there's a tank top that I was knitting, a great tutorial on knitting a tank top by a gal. She goes under the name Knit Crow Addict. That's KNITCROADDICT. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name right now, but she's got a great tutorial on how to knit this tank top, and the instruction is so clear that you can't fail. Yeah, sure. Okay, so what I did is I was trying to um, make it a little bit bigger because I'm using a different kind of wool, not what she had used. And it ended up being too big that I took it apart, knit it again, and I got down to like just the bodice part. I didn't actually fill out the full pattern, didn't complete the full pattern. I got about halfway, and it was still too big. So I've taken it all out and I've started yet again, and I'm using her extra large size to see if that one works out. So maybe it's going to work, maybe not. I don't know. But the point is that I'm still building the skill of knitting. I'm increasing my ability to have a very consistent tension. And gosh, if I get through this tank top pattern, it's the kind of pattern I could then add lace effects to it, maybe on the bottom, or there's all kinds of things I could do with it. Do it in different colors. My theory is that just as I used to knit shawls, and I got very proficient at knitting shawls and scarves and hats and mittens, those things are easy for me now. And just as I got good at doing all those things, I want to have one or two patterns like a tank top or a sweater or what is it that I'm working on, a summer top. I want to have at least a basic pattern that I can take and improvise and then just go with it. I don't want to have to be figuring out a pattern every single time I knit. Now, some people like that, but anyway, okay, so after watching Hannah's video, I pulled apart my shawl, no fail shawl, and I pulled apart my tank top, and I'm working on them again. So I think the life application of this is that sometimes that's the way we need to keep moving forward. We have doubts, we combat the doubts. We find ways to encourage ourselves. We get frustrated. Well, okay, so you can acknowledge how you feel, but then, get back into what you like doing. And you combat all these doubts and fears and frustrations and everything with the knowledge that you are in the process of gaining a skill, of gaining experience. And hopefully, if you take off some of the time limits, just relax and knit and not be in a rush to get a project completed, I think that we will all actually end up with something that we like. It's knitted, it's completed, we like it, it's usable, or it's giftable if you're giving it away. And you've gained patience, endurance, a skill, insight, probably some knowledge. And all of those things go beyond just knitting or whatever craft you're working in. All of those things are useful in managing life. So you're gaining life skills as well, all of which makes life more enjoyable, less stressful, a lot more fun. So happy knitting.